It makes their cornflakes the best there's ever been. They are the ones that keep your family with water off with vitamins they need. There's iron too, and the sunshine taste. So it's smart you start with Kellogg's cornflakes, with Kellogg's cornflakes. So it's smart you start with Kellogg's cornflakes, with Kellogg's cornflakes.
Tuesday is Dawlish Warren Market Day on Dawlish Road, Dawlish Warren. Lots of great stalls and free parking. See the London Bedding and Linen King from Petticoat Lane and the Gloucester China King. All at Dawlish Warren Market, Tuesday, on the Dawlish Road.
And my guest this morning, Terence Williams, to talk about acupuncture. Good morning, Terence.
Good morning.
Let me just ask you to start with about what acupuncture actually is, because we've all seen people sticking needles in themselves or in other people and seemingly having considerable effect by it. But it's not just a matter of poking needles anywhere, is it?
No, it isn't. There are something like 2,000 acupoints. Each of them have their own symptomology. And it is a matter of adjusting the various energies in the body by poking the needles into the various acupoints, or rather into specific acupoints.
So only certain places affect certain parts of the body?
Yes.
Right.
If one thinks as the brain as a computer, the acupoint as the key to the computer, the needle is the programmer. So one programs the brain to heal the body.
That's an amazingly philosophical view of it.
Well, it's the only
practical too?
Very, very practical.
Is there a lot of philosophy tied up with it? Because what you just said sounds to me very much being an Oriental-based sort of thing. It sounds very much caught up in a sort of philosophy of healing, and not necessarily something that is obviously practical, like, you sort of keep a bone straight to make it repair so that it doesn't repair itself bent.
It's a very scientific method of healing. Its history goes back well over 5,000 years. I don't think we've learned anything new in the 5,000 years. We're still using exactly the same systems, the same techniques.
That history, how did it actually start then?
Well, we don't really know. As I said, the written history goes back 5,000 years. They even then were speaking of ancient masters. There's a legend, of course, that a warrior on the battlefield was hit by an arrow and realized as the wound was healing, so the disease he was suffering from was healing. But I think that's far too far-fetched. I think myself that there must be a psychic origin to acupuncture, because it is there in its entirety. It just didn't grow as one would expect it to grow.
That's complicated. Explain that a bit more.
Well, the history of it, you're looking back in the ancient books, the whole system is there laid out for you. Stevenson saw the kettle lid boiling, and this led on and on and on to the locomotive, and that led on to something else, so that there was a history of growth. But we can't find that in acupuncture. It is there in its entirety.
You have no real knowledge of how the knowledge of what is there grew?
No.
You just know it's there?
We know it's there, but we don't know how it grew.
And it hasn't changed in all that
And it
years?
hasn't changed at all.
That's quite amazing, really, because
It really
most
is.
things do develop, don't they, and
They
change.
do.
Does the development into our world now, I mean, our society has changed such a lot, is the way it's interpreted now different from the way it was then? It's still just the same?
It's still exactly the same. We've certainly tried new techniques. We've tried electronic acupuncture, we've tried lasers, but none of them work as effectively as the needle and the hands.
That's amazing, really.
It really
Is it
is.
Chinese in origin?
It's Chinese in origin.
And they use it exclusively, do they, or is
They
it
use
just part of a...
No, they use it exclusively in China.
Go on.
During the during the revolution, when Sun Yat-sen came into power, he tried, because he was westernized orientated, because he was a doctor of medicine trained in the United States, he tried to put down acupuncture. He was rather ashamed of it. But during the last war, when Chairman Mao led his troops, acupuncture was the only method of healing for his troops. They couldn't afford drugs, they had to use herbs. They couldn't afford anesthetics, they used the needles. And when he came to power, he gave it preference. He insisted that it was taught to doctors. And so it is used extensively, not only in China, but all over the Far East.
You mentioned earlier on that the thing is like a programming thing for a brain to
Yes.
make it heal and what have you. But how does it actually work through the nervous system? Have we ever analysed it? Do we know, or is it something
Oh,
that's
there's
still
a
a bit
tremendous
dark?
amount of research going on all over the world. We still don't know how it works. There are hundreds of theories, but there is no practical scientific demonstration of how it does work. We just know that it works.
It seems very, well, you said before, it's detached. It has no sort of foundation in any sort of pool of knowledge. It's just there,
It's
and we
just
take
there.
it as being there. But isn't that something that's quite difficult to introduce to a system like we have in the Western world, like the National Health Service and all the other services we have, which have developed from a very obvious background and have an entire history progressing through them so that people can relate back and say, well, this is why this is, and that's why that is. But if you can't show me why your system works, why should we accept it?
Because it does work. You know, for 5,000 years the Chinese and the people have used it without recourse to drugs, except of herbs, of course. It does work. Why is it coming into the Western world? Well, a few years ago the biophysicists discovered, in a sense, that every cell in the body has two little factories working, one producing acid and the other alkaline. If they produce the same amount, they neutralize each other, and it is this which gives us energy. If one set of cells producing more acid, then another set of cells somewhere else in the body is producing more alkaline. It is also a fact that every disease, every virus, is either acid orientated or alkaline orientated. So that if you can bring a neutralizing substance to it, you're going to kill the disease. This is effectively what acupuncture really does. The biophysicist said if you could bring this acid to an alkaline area, you could kill cancer. Or you could cure any type of disease that you really wanted to. But how to do it? Well, the Chinese knew 5,000 years ago. They don't refer to acid alkaline, they refer to yin and yang. But this is what it basically means.
So acupuncture isn't, as we may have thought, just a means of eliminating pain while someone cuts someone up. It actually will cure things by sticking needles in.
Oh, it will actually cure things, or rather it will stimulate the body to heal itself.
Would it be usable on something as everyday as, say, flu or something like that? Would you be able to help the body get rid of a flu virus?
It will certainly get rid of viruses. It's a bit more complicated actually than this because of the factors of nutrition. But if the nutritional factor is well balanced, then yes, certainly you'll get rid of the viruses.
And you would do that using, what, one needle? Or would you have to use a program of needles around the
You
body?
may need a program of needles. You certainly don't need many. I'm a rather lazy man, and the least amount of needles I can put in, the better.
A lovely way of looking at it. We'll talk some more in a moment. Have a song now, this from the Commodores. My guest today, we're talking about acupuncture, more of which follows this.
There's a truly remarkable restaurant in Buckfastleigh. Just wait.
Today with Terence Williams, and we were just talking about needles there. And maybe we can ask you about where you would actually put needles to cure various things. If you can give me a couple of examples of the locations that would relate to different parts of the body.
Well, the command points, points which command the entire energies of the body, can be found from the elbows to the fingertips, from the knees to the toes. For instance, headaches, you would use mainly points on the feet, below the points below the knee. You may use one between the thumb and the first finger, but these are the points. They're never really ever put round the position of pain.
Yeah. So, I mean, how many would you use if you were curing a headache? One, two? Or...
Perhaps two.
Yeah. And when they're actually in, do you wiggle them about, or do you just push them in and leave them?
We just push them in and leave them. If you wiggle them about, you're tonifying, and that is for a specific purpose.
You're
Tonifying.
what
You're
is
heightening. You're heightening the resistance of the body.
Explain that more then.
Well, if you wish to draw energy from one part of the body to another part, you would twist the needle to stimulate that point, to
Yes.
put an enforcement into the brain. We need this energy at this particular point.
But if you just poked it in, that would eliminate pain.
It would eliminate pain
How
after
far in
time.
do they go? I mean, do they go a long way, or are they just touching?
Well,
the
it varies, of course, with the various parts of the body. If you're using a buttock point, then obviously
Yes.
the bigger the buttock, the longer the needle. But no, really and truly, there is no pain with acupuncture. Doesn't matter how deep you go in with the needle. The initial pain is on the surface of the skin, and only there. once you're through the skin, there is no pain.
That is the thing that I just can't believe. You know, you go through it, it doesn't hurt. You've actually got some needle stuck inside you, and it doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not convinced, but never mind. Can I ask you about a wonderful term I was reading in a couple of books you gave me, one called moxibustion?
We burn a herb of Artemisa, that's wormwood, on the point of stimulation. The heat transmitted with something of the moxibustion, with something of the wormwood with it, I think. We don't really know. But its action is a far greater stimuli than the needle. It is very, very useful in cold weather, where needles have very little effect.
Why is that?
Because the needles set up an electrolytic action, and if a person is cold, then the fluids are not functioning as well, and so the needles do not work as well.
So you can then use the fire on the skin.
Fire on the skin.
There are some lovely terms used to describe the activities that you go through. I mean, I'll never pronounce these correctly, but it says there are 8 manipulations described in the classics, and it's something like chi chui. Is that it?
Well, something like that.
And so he goes through the sort of set of rules, and they've all got these such lovely names. And there's one called Yao, which I would have thought an immediate reaction of the patient to having needles stuck in them. But can you go through those and explain what they actually are?
Well, if you position the needle slanting into the skin, if you're pushing it against the flow of the energy, then the stimulation is increased. You're building a resistance there. If, however, you go into the point with the flow, then you're reducing the effect. So that although you're using the same point, there are 2 different effects taking place.
And the process by which you would manipulate that needle in and out in every way has a different term.
That is a different term,
and
a different
these various phrases.
That's right.
Right. You've mentioned a lot energy. You say a lot about energy and the energy flow.
Well, we don't really know what energy is. We know, we don't know what electricity is really.
But how do you interpret it as being something you can use if
Well,
you don't understand what it actually is?
God in his wisdom gave us 14 pulse. There are 12 on each wrist, 2 underneath the thumbs. Now, by feeling these pulses, you can relate the amount of energy which is in any particular organ. So you know what is going on within the functions of the body. And by balancing these energies, by the use of the needle, you can balance the whole of the energy field within the body.
So, what, is blood therefore the energy, or is that an indicator of the presence of energy?
Neither, unfortunately.
No?
No, it's difficult. We know that there is an electromagnetic field. We know that nothing in the universe is really solid. That there is an ebb and flow. There is an energy field there. And each of the organs has its own particular energy field, which is related to the pulse. And then by relating each particular organ, feeling each particular pulse relating to the organ, we know how much energy is there. But what the energy is, we're not ever certain. We just don't know.
Do you see the body as a whole, or do you see it as pieces?
No, we see it as a whole. We treat the body in its entirety.
Right, okay. There's a college which you are, in fact, working at, the British Acupuncture College, which I didn't know there was.
Oh, yes.
How long has it been in existence?
16 years. 16, 17 years. We were fortunate in this country, really. We had publicity in women's papers on acupuncture. This is how I came into it, actually, reading of one of these. And then we were fortunate in as much as a gentleman by the name of Jacques Lavier, came over from France and set up a school, mainly to teach doctors. But the BMA stepped in and said, oh, no, you've got an unqualified practitioner here, you just can't study with him. So the medical profession withdrew, and people like myself went in. And this founded the college.
Do you find the people that come to you are a little cynical about the whole thing, or are they generally converted before they arrive?
No, they're very cynical. Everyone is. They may have heard glowing reports from former patients, but they all come with the same feeling, how the devil can needles stuck into the skin help me. But they go away convinced.
Yeah. Can I ask you just finally about 2 things which I suppose are considered to be social ills, biting nails, and smoking. Can acupuncture help those things?
Biting nails, no, it's purely a habit. Smoking, yes. Smoking is a habit, of course. But smoking also, tobacco is a drug, just as much as heroin and any of the other stuff. And it has withdrawal symptoms. Now, we place the needles into points which which when stimulated, force the brain or compel the brain to produce a substance called endorphins, which is very similar to morphia. And this then cloaks the withdrawal symptoms. But it doesn't break the habit. A person must want to give up smoking. If he does, then we can say that there is a 95% chance of success.
Is a desire to be healed important as well, if you're...
No, not really. Although, of course, there must be a continuity of treatment until the condition has healed. But no, if the continuity is there, it'll work.
You can do it. If anyone wanted to find out more about acupuncture, is there a good way of going around it?
Well, there are quite a number of books in the public library. In fact, there are probably 100 or so now, so you can read on the subject.
And if you wanted some attention by...
Then all you need to do is look into your yellow pages and phone up the nearest acupuncturist.
They will be in there.
They will be in there.
Thank you very much, Darren.
How many weeks, how many days did you say 2 days?
Each and every heart, it seems, is bounded by a world of dreams. And each and every rising sun is greeted by a lonely, lonely world. Won't you tell me again? Oh, can you feel it? Oh, won't you tell me again tonight? Oh, can you feel it? Oh, won't you tell me again tonight?
10:10, that's the Moody Blues and the voice. Nigel Waller, my guest this morning, Commodore of the Royal Torbay Yacht Club, about which we will be talking after this.
They won't.
They might.
They could do.
They won't do.
They might just.
Oh, they probably won't.
If this is how you're facing the chance of a building society giving you a mortgage, here's some good news. Home Builder is a savings account from Bradford and Bingley, which can actually guarantee you a mortgage. Full details are available from your local branch. You'll find us in Torquay, Totnes and Exeter. Home Builder takes the worry out of getting a mortgage.
They did.
Yes, they actually did.
I knew they would.
Thursday's Market Day at the new Brixham Road Market, at the Brixham end of the Ring Road. Free parking. See the London Bedding and Linen King from Petticoat Lane, and the Gloucester China King, all at Brixham Road Thursday Market, Brixham end of the Ring Road.
My guest today, Nigel Warren, to talk about the Royal Torbay Yacht Club, of which you are Commodore, aren't you?
That's right.
Perhaps we could start first of all with identifying your title. Is it the same as it means in the sort of military?
Well, I'm not sure that they have Commodores in the Navy anymore. It's really rather a posh title for chairman or captain, perhaps, of a golf or tennis club, something like that. And under me, we have a Vice Commodore and 2 Rear Commodores and a committee of 12. And really my job is to organise the affairs of the club with their valuable assistance and generally try and lead the club in the right direction.
A sort of voluntary administrator, almost.
That's right.
In some ways, right. The history of the club, it goes back quite a long way, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. The club itself was formed in 1863, and in 1875 it received its royal warrant, and it's been going strong ever since. There are about 15 royal clubs in the country, and I think we are about the 7th or 8th oldest.
How did you actually get the royal royal aspect of it, and why are there so few of them?
I think, and I knew you were going to ask me that question, and I've been trying to find the specific answer, but I think that the club was formed at a time when royalty was particularly interested in sailing, and we're talking about the days of Victoria, Edward VII, George V, and the latter two were very eminent yachtsmen, and they liked to confer their patronage on the clubs that were being formed at the time. Similarly with the regatta, which is now in its 168th year and starts next week, that is the Torbay Royal Regatta, and it became royal when Princess Victoria visited Torquay in 1833, and on her accession to the throne in 1839, agreed that it should be called the Torbay Royal Regatta from then on. So there was quite a lot of royal patronage going on at the time.
I'm quite interested that so long ago there was such an interest in yachting and sailing, because my impression is that it's, about post-war phenomenon, definitely, and perhaps only the last 15 years or so.
Oh no, the pleasure yachting goes back over very many centuries. I don't know exactly when it started, but we certainly know that Charles I and Charles II would go yachting. But it really came to the fore in the early 1800s, really during the Napoleonic Wars. And in 1811, that was when the first regatta was held in Torquay. And then in 1813, it really got off the ground and the town adopted it. It's a town event, and it takes in not only yachting, but also a number of other activities, rowing and so on. And round about 1815, yachting at Cowes took off when the Royal Yacht Squadron was formed. The Royal Yacht Squadron is the most senior yacht club in the country, and that was formed at Cowes. And these enormous yachts used to tour the country, starting at Harwich Regatta. They'd go on round the coast to Cowes to do Cowes Week. Then they'd come on to Torbay, and they'd end up right up on the Clyde before calling the season a day.
Good grief.
So
it's got quite a way of spending your year sailing, really.
That's right.
Was sailing the same then? I mean, was it the sort of family, or, well, not the family, I shouldn't have thought then, but maybe sort of 5 or 6 people on a boat there to all take part and get involved in it? Or was it a matter of, I own it, I employ you to sail it for me, and I'm going to sit at the back?
I think really it was quite different. There was far less family pottering in boats then, probably, or certainly when it came to racing. And the sort of boats who would visit the regattas were owned by enormously wealthy men who would employ a crew of maybe 20 people full-time. The sort of owners I'm talking about are people like Sir Thomas Lipton, who founded Lipton's Grocers Stores, Sir Thomas Sopwith, the aeronautical engineer, and so on. And they were very wealthy men. They employed a crew, they employed a skipper. The skipper really probably knew very much more about sailing than they did. But at a lower level, I have no doubt that family sailing was happening, but I don't think it was happening in anything like the numbers that we see now.
When did the sort of present-day style of sailing, when did that really get underway? Is that post-war, as I was suggesting?
I would think, but no, I think earlier than that. I would say the sort of 1920s between the wars, and then it's really mushroomed since the war, and it's now become, I believe, the second or third most popular participator sport in the country.
Everyone associates dinghies and what have you with fun, and there's windsurfing now, which is very, very popular.
That's right.
But there's an awful sort of stigma almost attached to those enormous great gin palaces, so-called, that you see chasing in and out. I always have a sort of reasonable respect for however large a sailing boat is, I don't mind, but if it's a large motorboat, I resent that. I don't know why. It seems like a completely uncivilized way of travelling across the sea. Is it really as much an elitist hobby, sport, or activity as it may appear to an onlooker?
I don't think sailing is, anyway. I rather share your views on the gin palaces, but that's rather a personal view.
You must have a sailing boat.
That's right. And there's always a fairly lively prejudice by sailors against motorboat drivers. But no, I think nowadays sailing is not the preserve of the rich or the privileged at all. It can be. It depends at what end of the spectrum you want to sail. But it is now possible to sail in a dinghy or a small cruiser at relatively modest cost. And bear in mind, for every one owner of an ocean racing boat, you probably have a crew of 9 or 10 people who have no financial stake in the boat whatsoever. And so really anyone can sail, and there is no problem financially in starting. I wouldn't think that there is anyone who can't afford to take part in the sport.
Certainly at the lower end. I always thought dinghies were actually the most fun I've ever had. I sailed around in small cruisers, but dinghies I had far more fun because they capsized all the time. It was really rather lovely. We'll talk some more in a moment. Have a tune now. This is Beach Boys Gold from Gidea Park.
We'll remember me. I get new unknown. Yeah, the bad guys know us and they leave us alone. I get around. It's the little old lady from Pasadena. Well, she got a daddy's car and she cruised through the hamburger stand now. See, she forgot all about the library like she told her old man now. And with the radio blasting goes cruising just as fast as she can now. And she'll have fun, fun, fun till her daddy takes the T-bird away. Fun, fun, fun till her daddy takes the T-bird away. Fun, fun, now the daddy take the T-bird away. Fun, fun, now the daddy take the T-bird away. Fun, fun, now the daddy take the T-bird away. Fun, fun, now the daddy take the T-bird. On, let me go, mister. Let me go. Slip up the jumping, sister. Feel so broke up. I wanna go home. Let me go home. After 6 hours of school, I have enough of the day. I hit the radio dial and turn it up all the way. I gotta dance, dance, dance right there on the spot. Dance, 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 now the beat's really hot. Dance, dance, dance right there on the spot. Dance, 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 yeah. I grow up to be a man. Gotta keep those love good vibrations happening with her. Gotta keep those love good vibrations happening with her. Gotta keep those love good vibrations happening with her. Gotta keep those love good vibrations happening with her. Good vibrations, excitation, good vibrations, excitation, good vibrations, excitation.
Gidea Park singing about Beach Boys Gold. It's 22 minutes after 10 o'clock. More about the Royal Torbay Yacht Club coming after this.
Timothy White's return to Exeter with a wonderful range of cookware, kitchenware, tableware and electrical appliances and special opening offers till
Finger licking, finger licking, finger licking chicken. Finger licking, finger licking, finger licking chicken.
Every purchase of chicken chips and a Pepsi Cola at Kentucky Fried Chicken this summer will give you the chance to win a fantastic blue sky holiday for two in fabulous Hong Kong. Get an entry form now at any Kentucky Fried Chicken or Texaco service station in your area displaying the blue sky sign.
Kentucky Fried Chicken. Finger licking, Kentucky Fried Chicken.
So visit your local Kentucky Fried Chicken store now.
Perrott's 80th anniversary summer sale is now on. It's Perrott's largest ever clothing sale with genuine reductions in ladies', men's and boys' wear. For example, many ladies' coats and dresses at half the normal price. Jaeger separates well reduced. Top quality men's suits by famous makers priced from only £49. We have men's shirts at £3 and hundreds of trousers in the sale, some for as little as £12. We've never had as many bargains. So don't miss Perrott's 80th anniversary summer sale, which is now on at Torbay Road, Paynton and Bank Street, Teignmouth.
Nigel Wallen, my guest this morning, talking about the Royal Torbay Yacht Club. I was quite interested to read in these notes you gave me that the first Commodore of the club was responsible for building Torquay Harbour.
Yes, that's right. That was Sir Lawrence Polk, and they were a very large and old Torquay family, and he had the existing Torquay Harbour built in about 1870, and that greatly encouraged the number of yachts who would come down here for regattas and other sailing events.
Part of the harbour was it? The inner harbour or the...
No, this was... I stand to be corrected by the better historians of Torquay, but I think this was the outer harbour.
Really?
Yes.
So it's that old?
That's right.
That's quite a coup for the club, isn't it, really?
Yes.
Do you have any claim to parts of it, or not?
Oh, no, I wish we did. No, I'm afraid not. No, it's all owned by the council. It would be very nice if we owned the harbour. I think that's wishful thinking.
In 1948, the Olympic Games were held here, weren't they?
That's right,
Must
yes.
have been a lovely sight.
The Olympic Games were based in London, and the yachting events were held in Torquay. You see, Torquay, or Tor Bay, is probably the best venue for sailing events and championships in Northern Europe. It has a number of advantages. It has a large sheltered bay. It has no natural hazards, such as rocks and mud banks and things of that sort. And above all, it has virtually no tidal stream. And that gives us an enormous advantage over places such as the Solent, where the tide is such a factor. And so Tor Bay was chosen to host the Olympic Games in 1948. And it was a very... I was only just around at the time, so I can't say I remember it. But I understand from my seniors that it was a very good event indeed.
Yeah. You've had a couple of other interesting things. I mean, one of your members went in the Olympic Games in Tokyo. This was a fair while ago now. It was 1964, wasn't it?
That's right, 1964. Martin Parry went off with his crew, one of whom was also one of our members, Peter Reed, and represented England in the Olympic Games in the International Dragon class. And he had a very successful week. In fact, for most of the week, we thought he would win the gold or the silver medal, but owing to various circumstances in the last couple of races, he ended up fourth overall, so he narrowly missed winning a medal.
Great shame too.
That's right, it was, but sailing's like that. There is a fair element of luck in it as well as skill, and sometimes even the best people don't float to the top.
And perhaps nice that it is like that.
I think so, yes. It can be a very frustrating sport as well.
Yes.
And I think the recent Admiral's Cup series shows that, where you don't get very much wind. It can be extremely frustrating. But nonetheless...
more wind in 1979, the Fastnet race. Do you have anything in there?
1979, yes, we did. We had two boats taking part. One of them, I regret to say, sank, but the crew were all rescued safely. And the other boat, on which I had the honour to be a crew member, we sat out there for about 15 hours or something like that without any sail up, and then we came home, and we were perfectly all right.
A bit of a weird experience, I should think, though.
In a way, I think, as so often happens with these incidents, with due respect to the media, I think they tend to blow it up a bit. The loss of life on that race was tragic, but I think it has been got out of perspective, really. And it was a very memorable couple of days. I can put it like that.
Certainly one way of putting it. Yeah. Can I ask you about the regattas, because you've been talking a lot about those. You said that you have one starting next week.
Yes, that's right. The rowing events, in fact, start on Saturday, and then the sailing events and various athletic events and so on as well take place Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And we expect that we'll have something in the region of 200, maybe 250 boats taking part, of whom about 50 or 60 will be what are, by present-day standards, the large boats, and they compete for a thing called the Tor Bay Admiral's Cup, which is really an exact copy of the International Admiral's Cup, except that instead of countries racing against each other, we have clubs racing against each other. And it's very, very hotly contested, and we're looking forward to a lot of fun next week.
They'll all be in the bay and around, so...
Yes, they will. And Torquay Harbour should be quite a sight, because when we get maybe 90 keel boats moored up in the harbour, it really can be a superb sight.
And I should think you'd have some trouble moving around there.
Yes.
Rather nice.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So it should be quite a spectacle.
I look forward to that. Can I just ask you just one final thing? We were talking earlier about the sort of prestige that tends to be associated with sailing. Perhaps just worth making a point that the club itself does have different sort of members, and a whole range of different sailing activities are represented in the club, aren't they?
Yes, very much so. And we are a yacht club, and that is the reason for our existence. But having said that, we have a large number of members who do not sail and who have never sailed, and who make use of the club's facilities because it's a very nice club. It's got a lovely outlook over the bay and the harbour. It's got a lovely bar, billiards, dining room, the lot. And, you know, I think some people think, oh, well, the yacht club, that's really for a lot of gin-swilling millionaires who sit down there with their enormous yachts. But it's not like that a bit. And, you know, as long as an applicant for membership appears to be the sort of person we think will fit in, there's no problem about joining it at all. And there's certainly none of the old nonsense about sort of status and class and everything else. Certainly in the old days, the Royal Clubs were very, very fussy about who they'd let in, and anyone in trade, for instance, would be banned completely. And Sir Thomas Lipton, who I referred to earlier, spent most of his life trying to become a member of the Royal Yacht Squadron, but failed. And there's a marvellous story of one day when somebody walked into the Royal Yacht Squadron and said, "Where's the King?" And the Kaiser, the Emperor of Germany, was sitting in the corner, and he looked up and said, "Oh, he's gone a-yachting with his grocer." And this was the sort of attitude within the clubs at the time. But that, I'm happy to say, is gone. And really, we are no different to any golf club, tennis club, or other sports club.
So perhaps windsurfers, dinghy sailors, and everything else.
Yes, we have a lot of windsurfer members and a lot of dinghy members. In fact, most of our activities revolve around the organisation of dinghy sailing and dinghy championships. And it's a very pleasant, relaxed, informal place to belong to.
Okay, Nigel, on that we'll leave it. Thanks very much for coming in and talking this morning, and I wish you the best with your regatta coming up for next week.
Thank you very much indeed.
Bye for now.
Said she come from Rio, lived on a mountain. I met her in Trafalgar Square. She was sitting in the fountain. She took off her hat, and she had lovely hair. She was a disco dancer at the Copacabana there. South American lady, you got that crazy beat. Brazilian beauty, with the flashing feet. Danced to the music at the Mardi Gras, then jumped on the Concorde. You're so la-di-da. See. Took her to a disco in Battersea. I asked her to dance, and then she danced with me. Then I took a chance. Come home with me today. I live in France. We can get there B.E.A. Je suis un rockstar. Je habille un résidence. Je habite là. À la south of France. Voulez-vous partir with me and come and rest là with me in France? On strike, there's no planes flying. I could rent a motorbike, at least I'm trying. We could go on the hovercraft across the water. They'll think I'm your dad and you're my daughter. Je suis un rockstar. Je habille un résidence. Je habite là. À la south of France. Voulez-vous partir Je suis un rockstar, je habite un résidence, je habite là, dans la south de France, tous les deux. Partir with me, then come and rester là, with me in France. Je suis un rockstar, je habite un résidence, je habite là, dans la south de France, tous les deux. Partir with me, then come and rester là, with me in France.
Je suis a rock star. That's Bill Wyman. It's 25 to 11.
It's summer saver time at UBM Devon. Spend £1,000 on an Emperor kitchen in any of 4 different styles and 13 finishes before August the 31st. Get free fitting and 10% off our normal price.
A new bathroom suite, the Avon in choice of colours with fittings and side panel costs only £139.
And how about 6-inch crystal tiles from only $3.65 a box of 25? Triton electric showers $49.50. Fairline sink mixers $16.95.
Big range, low prices.
UBM Devon are great people for all your building needs.
Stay cool. Take advantage of the Summer Sunshine special ice cream bargains throughout August and September from Newton Abbot Frozen Food Centre. Also 10% off normal prices on freezer equipment and micro-oven equipment at Newton Abbot Frozen Food Centre, Bank Street, Newton Abbot.
Samaritans, can I help you?
Would it help to talk to someone? You can call the Samaritans day or night on Torquay 25355 or Exeter 39898.
It's such a beautiful summer.
Devonair and you.
Well, before we join the Radio 2 Sports Desk, I have a message for drivers travelling towards London on the M4 motorway. The eastbound carriageway of the M4 is closed between Junction 3, the A312 to Hounslow, and Junction 2, the A406 and A205 turn-off. This is due to a number of accidents at Cranford Parkway and roadworks, and drivers approaching this section of the motorway are asked to slow down and pay special attention to the speed restriction signs. That's the eastbound carriageway of the M4, closed between Junctions 3 and 2, between Hounslow and the A406 and A205 turn-off. Well, now it's time to join Frank Partridge at our Radio 2 Sports Desk.
Good evening. A busy programme tonight. Later on, we'll be hearing Kevin Keegan's views on soccer hooliganism and reporting on a great day for 2 British show jumpers in Dublin. Let's start with tennis and the Benson and Hedges tournament at Wembley. Tonight, they've been completing the quarter-final stage. And to bring us up to date with events, let's go over now to Jerry Williams.
Well, just at a time when he finds himself losing in early rounds and has started to think about retirement, Stan Smith is through to the semi-finals here at Wembley, and he's through, what's more, unseeded. This evening, he beat the Californian Butch Waltz 6-1, 6-3, and that means that Smith will play Gene Mayer in the semi-finals tomorrow evening. Smith's match against Waltz was a meeting of likes, 2 big men with big shots, but Smith used them a good deal better, and he was more flexible as well. The third seed, Harold Solomon, is having to run miles, as ever, on those tiny little legs of his. His quarter-final opponent, Tomasz Schmid, one of the men who have taken Czechoslovakia into the Davis Cup final against Italy, has burst when his agricultural swings reap a harvest. Solomon's